Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Ma Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Nandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parujikacharya Ashtotar that Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parujikacharya Ashtotar that Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavindi Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Okay, I believe 44. What do you think, Mukunda? You have a good memory. Glenn, what's your opinion? 44? Not 43, 44. You think 43? Oh, come on. Yeah, you're right. Okay, thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 20th day of January 2021 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 6 entitled Dhyana Yoga, text 43 on page 296. Where did Glenn go? It's a little loud for Vijay. Can you turn it down a little bit? Because I know him. He takes rest at this time. Amazing. Hare Krishna. Hare Hare Bol. That's better. That's good. Thank you, Guru. Okay. Text 43. Tatra tham buddhi sangyogam tattvatam buddhi sangyogam labate pavadehikam yatate chatato bhuya Sangsiddhau Kudunandana Tattatang Buddhi Sangyogam labate parvadehikam yatate chatato bhuya Sangsiddhao kudunandana Tattatam buddhi sangyogam Labate parvadehikam Yatate chatato bhuya Sangsiddhao kudunandana. Chant. Tattatam buddhi sangyogam Labate parvadehikam Yatate chatato bhuya Sangsiddhao kudunandana. Tattatam buddhi sangyogam Labate parvadehikam Yatate chatato bhuya Sangsiddhao kudunandana. Tattatam buddhi sangyogam Labate parvadehikam Yatate chatato bhuya Sangsiddhao kudunandana. Page 296. 296 when you're yeah. Tatra, I'm sorry. Tatra, thereupon, tam, that, buddhi sangyogam, revival of consciousness, labate, gains, parvadehikam, from the previous body, yatate, he endeavors, cha, also, tataha, thereafter, bhuya, again, sangsiddhao, for perfection, Kurunandana, O son of Kuru. So, okay. Translation. I'm going to read the previous translation because he's talking about the previous verse. Or, if unsuccessful after long practice of yoga, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom, certainly such a birth is rare in this world. 43 translation. On taking such a birth, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, and he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success, O son of Kuru. Purport. King Bharata, who took his third birth in the family of a good Brahmin, is an example of good birth for the revival of previous transcendental consciousness. King Bharat was the emperor of the world, and since his time this planet has been known among the demigods as Bharatavarsha. Formerly it was known as Ilavrtavarsha. The emperor, at an early age, retired for spiritual perfection, but failed to achieve success. In his next life, he took birth in the family of a good Brahmin and was known as Jadabharata, because he always remained secluded and did not talk to anyone. And later on, he was discovered as the greatest transcendentalist by King Rahugana. From his life, it is understood that transcendental endeavors, or the practice of yoga, never go in vain. By the grace of the Lord, the transcendentalist gets repeated opportunities for complete perfection in Krishna consciousness. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So Krishna is, in these verses, beginning in 41, actually beginning in 40, he's encouraging Arjuna, who was doubtful that he could practice this process. Chanchalam himana Krishna pramati balabadhudham tasyaham nigraham mani vairi suduskaram. The whole process is controlling the mind, right? The mind can be the best friend or it can be the worst enemy. The uncontrolled mind is your worst enemy. But one that is under control and fixed on the Supreme Lord, especially Krishna, is your best friend. So, how to get from here to there? Because the mind in the conditioned state is all over the place and it's binding us. So that's the process that he outlined with the Ashtanga Yoga. But Arjuna says, I don't think I can practice this. The first requirement is to go alone to a place. Now Arjuna was talking about leaving the battlefield, but he was talking about just becoming a beggar, basically. He wasn't talking about going to some secluded place in the Himalayas and sitting down for hours and days and weeks and years. Anyway, so he was pessimistic, and he represents us, because in this age, it's very, very, very rare that someone can practice this process. And even if they do, they generally get deviated by the siddhis, by the powers that come from practicing Ashtanga Yoga. I like to tell, I think Prabhupada mentioned this, or I read it once about an account of the Kumbh Mela. Kumbh Mela is the most amazing religious festival in the world. You know, I heard it was 30 million people. I mean, it's getting bigger because the population of India is increasing. And 30 million to 40 million people gather at that confluence of the Ganges and the Yamuna, where there's a city called Allahabad, otherwise known as Prayag. And there's all kinds of, Shastra describing how every 12 years, if you at a certain astrological time, which always comes around this time, January, which is very, very cold, it's northern India, if you take bath at a certain specific time, then you'll get liberation, So people come there from all kinds of traditions and all kinds of states, and it's not that far from the Himalayas. So there's all kinds of yogis who also come down there. And they belong to different groups, So there's a big army presence, because here you have suddenly a city, huge city just grows up from the plain. So they have to have some law, they have the post office, probably describes, everything is there. He calls it a temporary fair. So these different, the hierarchy is those who get to bathe at the exact time are most blessed, fortunate, because it's, you got millions of people wanting to bathe. Obviously, there's a limited amount of space. So it's generally understood these yogis will get to go first, because they're very powerful and very advanced, But they also have different clans of yogis. And so one year, I don't know if it happens every year, but there was I don't know what you call it, a rumble, They were fighting with each other. How they were fighting, whether they were using their mystic powers or just throwing rocks or, I don't know, punches. But the police had to come and break them all up, Now, just consider that, Devotees, one of the qualities that, you're trying the most qualified devotees are the ones who are the most humble, and the ones who are not pushing themselves forward. And it's just so contrary to what you would think as an advanced spiritualist, that they're fighting with each other in order to bathe at the precise time. And one lesson from this is that the desire for liberation is ultimately a selfish desire. It's not a spiritual desire, because basically it's just you're wanting to be free of all misery, and therefore you're competing with others who have a better chance because they're bathing at the right time. So that's illustrative that even if you do advance, it doesn't assure you of really developing those qualities by which you can go back to Godhead. Now, Krishna, of course, in this chapter, he says, yes, making me the ultimate goal. He makes sure that the object of meditation is himself in the heart, not some vague white light or something like that, or even, he's identifying that it's ultimately a bhakti process. But Arjuna is pessimistic, he's doubtful, so he says, only you can clear my doubts. And so he encourages himself, well, nothing is lost in this devotional yoga process, because if you fail in one lifetime, you'll come back and basically pick up where you left off. And he gives different categories that you can come back to. Text 41. First he says, one who does good is never overcome from evil. So that's dispelling that doubt. But Shuchitam Shrivatam Gehe Yoga Brashta Vijayate, text 41, this is a famous line. So Shuchinam means pure, a nice family of Brahmins, which you have a good chance of continuing your Vaishnava practices. Or Srimatam. Now Srimatam is a little more problematic, because that means very wealthy. Now, if they're very pious and very wealthy, sure, The advantage is you don't have to spend all your time just worrying how to feed yourself and your family. In other words, you'll have time to do it. And because of the inclination, the family you'll take birth in will be a devotional family. That's the idea. But better is, if you are unsuccessful after a long practice of yoga, rather than just a little bit, then that's 42 and 43, which we read today, then you'll take birth in a devotee family. Prabhupada mentions himself and Bhaktisiddhanta in the previous purport to 42. And here Prabhupada talks about King Bharat. Now, of course, the story is that it's unusual first to leave when you're young. He inherited the emperorship from his father, who's Lord Rishabdev, who's an incarnation. A very exalted soul. He had 99 brothers, 9 of whom became the 9 Yogendras. All exalted yogi devotees who travel and preach. They have a nice section in 11th canto, wonderful instructions they give. And then his other brothers, they all helped him rule the kingdom, But he grew impatient. He didn't want to wait till old age, even as a youth. There's a famous verse, which unfortunately I forgot the first word. But basically it says, in his youth, he gave up his beautiful wife and his sons and all the other things which are dear, just like you give up stool after passing it, and he went to go in the forest. And then it describes his meditation. He's meditating out there, but he's at the point of Baba. He's meditating on Krishna, out in the forest. But, the story, suddenly there's this loud roar of a lion. He comes out of his meditation, and he sees there's a stream nearby, and this poor deer, pregnant deer, is trying to get away from the lion. The lion's right on its tail. And she jumps in, or maybe it's a tiger, she jumps into the stream and swims, terrified across the stream. I don't know. Maybe lions and tigers, they don't go into water, but she was safe from that. But she was so terrified, and when she gets out, the little fawn comes out, and is born, newborn, and she dies. So now here's Bharat and the fawn. So what's he going to do? Well, any soft-hearted Vaishnava would obviously try to give some help to this fawn, So he developed an attachment for the fawn, and the fawn developed a real attachment for him because he was the only mother she had. I don't know what the gender of the fawn was. Anyway, so complete attachment. So he's meditating, but now he's got this family. He's got this attachment. The fawn comes, nibbles at his ear. It's time to eat something. Or the fawn is not coming for lunch. What happened to the fawn? Maybe there's danger. He's distracted. And he dies thinking of that fawn, becomes a deer, but because of his advancement, he was able to remember his previous life. So he didn't hang out with the other deer. He found some little ashram of devotees, who were talking about Krishna, and he just hung out outside and listened. There were some amazing stories from New Vrindavan from the old days of animals, of some dog who would always show up from Mangalartik. You've probably heard some of these, already. The animals can sometimes become attracted. So anyway, he was really attracted, and he had his remembrance. And then he took a birth, which Prabhupada mentions, in a nice Brahmin family. But he pretended to be Jada. That's what Jada Bar. Jada means stupid, He was actually fully intelligent, but he didn't want to get entangled, so he pretended to be deaf and dumb, kind of, So they assigned him to watch the cows, So then he gets kidnapped, by some Kali worshippers. There's a story about that. They were going to human sacrifice, and he just accepted it, just like Ambarish, accepted. If I'm going to burn up by this Kritya thrown by the Vasa Muni, then so what? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Prahlad. So he was saved. You know what happened? You maybe didn't hear the story. Kali, they had a murti, beautiful murti of Kali with all the arms, and the garlands of skulls, But she's a devotee, and she sees his devotees about to be beheaded, and offered to her. So she breaks out of the murti. I think she had her companions with her too, and she kills all of her worshippers, so-called worshippers. And there's a painting, and Jad Bharat's just looking on, calmly. So he was saved. And eventually he died in the forest fire somewhere. But, so the idea is that he picked up the divine consciousness in the next birth. He didn't lose it. Even in the deer body, he had the consciousness, what to speak of Jad Bharat. So that's auspicious. And this theme goes on in the next verse. So if there's no comments or questions, we'll go with it to 44. Yes, go ahead, Prabhu. Shuchinam, pious. That's it. That's text 42. That's a different category. Yes, yes, definitely. 40 and 41 deal with someone who's who falls away. I think it's clear in the purports that after some time he falls away. He's not really that mature. The unsuccessful after many years of enjoyment in the planets of pious living entities. So he goes to heaven first. That's the idea, and it comes down and takes his pious birth. But the after a long practice, he doesn't detour to heaven. He takes right away a birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. That's understood to be a devotee family. There's a sharp distinction there. And then the next verse this further describes the best birth of the unsuccessful yogi. Purvyabhyasena tenaiva Vriyate yavashopi saha jigyasurapi yogasya Shabda Brahmati Vartate. By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles, even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. Purport. Ritualistic principles is talking about like karma kanda. Advanced yogis are not very much attracted to the rituals of the scriptures, but they automatically become attracted to the yoga principles, which can elevate them to complete Krishna consciousness, the highest yoga perfection. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 3.33.7, such a disregard of Vedic rituals by the advanced transcendentalists is explained as follows. So I'll say, you say, if you can. Famous verse noted by Devahuti. Oho bata shapachoto gariyan Yajjigvagre vartate nama tubhyam Te pustapaste juhuvu sasnaraya Brahmanuchur nama gunanti yete. Page 297. O my Lord, so she's speaking to her exalted son Kapila. O my Lord, persons who chant the holy names of your Lordship are far advanced in spiritual life, even if born in families of dog-eaters. Such chanters have undoubtedly performed all kinds of austerities and sacrifice, bathed in all the sacred places, and finished all scriptural studies. The famous example of this was presented by Lord Chaitanya, who accepted Thakur Haridas as one of his most important disciples. Although Thakur Haridas happened to take his birth in a Muslim family, he was elevated to the post of Namacharya by Lord Chaitanya due to his rigidly attended principle of chanting 300,000 holy names of the Lord daily. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And because he chanted the holy name of the Lord constantly, it is understood that in his previous life he must have passed through all the ritualistic methods of the Vedas, known as Shabda Brahma. Unless, therefore, one is purified, one cannot take to the principles of Krishna consciousness or become engaged in chanting the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna. So this is, this is always a very encouraging verse when the devotees first read it. The third canto came out, because it's what it says here, which Prabhupada doesn't give in his kind of loose translation, Yajjigvai Vartate Namatubhyam, that on the tip of the tongue. In other words, somehow or other, you're uttering the holy name. Even if you're a shrapacha, you're a dog eater, but somehow or other you're chanting Hare Krishna. Then you must have performed all these things in a previous life. But as Prabhupada explains, there's still various levels at which you can obviously be committed or experience the holy name. But the point is that someone who takes it up even for some time, it's very difficult to do that without some background, in devotional service. And you can see, like we heard that incredible story about that Hungarian grandma who became like a fanatic devotee. That story I first read, Sri Ram Swami included it in a Vyasa Puja offering that he sent in one year, so it's 15 years ago. Just amazing. But here you see, the little girl, all right, she had something going on. She read it, but she wasn't really attached. Wasn't reading. She bought it, but she wasn't really attached to reading it. But the grandmother just like obviously awoke something that had been there. She already was a very serious Catholic, but this just revealed her. I think we could take it from this, that it revealed advancement from some previous life. So somehow or other, we can take and be enlivened that, let's chant Hare Krishna, and even if we're not experiencing, prema bhakti, keep that chant going on the tip of our tongue, and if we don't go back to God, we'll be able to keep chanting next life. The whole time it builds up, and it's the Bhagavatam is full of stories like that, and the whole movement is based on that. Lord Chaitanya, his movement is based on really civil disobedience. You know how it started. It's Nam Sankirtan in Navadvip. It's told wonderfully in the Chaitanya Bhagavat that first of all the Muslims were ruling in one sense, and then you also had the Smarta Brahmins who were very, particular about their position in society, and they weren't really transcendentalists. They were kind of cashing in on their, good birth, and that's true today also. So when Lord Chaitanya, he started his Sankirtan. At first, he was Nimai Pandit. He wasn't emphasizing that, and he would debate with anybody, even the Vaishnavas. It describes how these great Vaishnavas, they would avoid him. They see him on the street, get into this wrangling with Nimai Pandit, And so one time, I don't know if it was Srivas, I forget who told him, "Oh, Nimai, if you would only be a Vaishnav, you would be the greatest Vaishnav. You're so intelligent, so brilliant, in your knowledge of the Shastra and everything." So he smiled and laughed and said, "By your grace, I become a Vaishnav." Anyway, so, he had all that erudition, but when he came back from Gaya, he started preaching, first in his school. He had a school. His own school, Toll, and but he didn't really want to just teach grammar anymore, dry grammar. So everything had to be in relation to Krishna. He would teach the different classes of nouns and verbs and things, And after a while, the students complained. So we're not getting the lesson like we used to get, So they complained to his teacher. I forget, it was the Gargacharya or something like that. Anyway, so at a certain point he said, "I can't do it anymore. I can't." So he stood up and he started singing, "Hare Haraya Nama Krishna Yaravaya Namaha." It's right in the CC. Just the two lines, not the whole song, but the two lines. Gopal Govinda Ranshi Madhusudana. And that's the way he started the Sankirtan movement. And soon there were these kirtans going on in Srivasa's Anga, Srivasa's house. When you go to Mayapur, anyone who's been, you just go down the road and you see Srivasa Angan. It's wonderful, And the whole thing started there, and they'd have these long kirtans, and everyone's going into ecstasy. But it would be an internal thing. It would be within the house. And it's famously, one Brahmin wanted to get in to see Lord Chaitanya dancing. He couldn't get in, and he cursed him to not have any material wealth, which he accepted as a great blessing, But then what happened is that it kept growing, and it was going on sometimes in the street and mostly in people's houses. But the Smarta Brahmins were getting upset. And so they complained to the Muslim Qazi, and so he came, he famously broke the Mridanga drum, So they went to Lord Chaitanya and says, "Oh, we're being repressed, we can't chant." So Lord said, "Oh, let's see what they'll do tonight." So he calls for a massive Sankirtan. At dusk, everyone get a big torch, and it's literally thousands and thousands of Bengalis there, and the Vaishnavas. So they all started coming out, and women, everyone's coming out, women, old men, kids, everyone. And Lord Chaitanya is dancing. Everyone's seeing the dancing now, And he leads the kirtan toward the Qazi's house. So he sends out his soldiers, but it really depends on, trepidation and fear. There's thousands and thousands of citizens, and there's just a few soldiers. And so they came out there, and they had their long beards, and they had their weapons, but they saw that these people were not afraid of them. They were just dancing and chanting. So they described they tried to hide their beards, and they threw away their swords, so they wouldn't be. So the whole thing was just outrageous. And they went to the house, and in the Chaitanya Bhagavad, it describes they practically destroyed that house. Until Lord Chaitanya finally told him to stop. In the CC, it describes that he told him to stop, and he went and he had this long conversation, And the Qazi became converted. You remember what he said? Yeah, I'll tell you what happened to me. After I broke that Madanga drum, that night I had a dream, and there was this big lion on my chest, and he warned me not to interfere with the Vaishnavas anymore. And he scratched my chest, and you see it. Here's the scratches. He had a dream, and he still had this. So he became a follower of Lord Chaitanya. And the main thing is that if you go to Mayapur, is that yes, because of the edict of the Qazi, they will never stop the Sankirtan. And you go on Harinam downtown Navadvip, So that's. But the point is that Lord Chaitanya was challenging from day one so many norms. And exalting Haridas Thakur, and basically challenging the structure of the hierarchy, the social structure, and it had gotten, it wasn't overwhelming Vaishnav Dharma going on right in Navadvip. It was a place of learning, but a lot of it was logic chopping, and like that you would have the Keshava Kashmiri come down and challenges, and getting the certificates that you won. It become corrupted. The learning was there, but the actual knowledge and wisdom wasn't there. So Lord Chaitanya changed all that, and then of course he took sannyas to be even more effective and traveled. But these verses, there are many verses like this, and some of them even in the Bhagavatam. Kirata Hunanda Pulinda Pukisha. It means that, even though people outside completely the Vedic culture, the dog eaters and the people in different foreign lands, far away from the Vedic culture, they can also be purified if they take shelter of one who's taken shelter of Mukunda. So this movement is very much revolutionary. And Prabhupada, in quoting this verse, he's describing, basically saying how for us, if we just surrender to the chanting, and we just perfect that, everything is there. Everything is there, and it supports all the other services. You become more attuned to hearing about Krishna. You're interested in seeing the deity. You're more detached. It's just so powerful because it's Krishna. You're associating with Krishna, and it is the Yuga Dharma. So we should that's the main yoga that we should focus on, and you don't miss anything from the descriptions here. You'll experience the highest happiness through transcendental senses. You'll become free from the miseries of this material life as described in text 20 to 23. And the best part of it is that it's available and possible for us to perform, and there's no loss or diminution. So you're sure to succeed sooner or later, depending on your sincerity and determination. Okay, any discussion on this nice verse and purport? Otherwise, we'll continue with text 45. I think we can finish this chapter. Prayatna jitamanastu yogi sangshuddha kilbishaha aneka janma sangsiddhas tato yati padam gitim. And when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately achieving perfection after many, many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. Purport: a person born in a particularly righteous, aristocratic, or sacred family becomes conscious of his favorable condition for executing yoga practice. With determination, therefore, he begins his unfinished task, and thus he completely cleanses himself of all material contaminations. When he is finally free from all contaminations, he attains the supreme perfection, Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is the perfect stage of being freed of all contaminations. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 7:28. I say, you say. Yesham tvandakatam papam jananam punyakarmanam te dvandamohani mukta bhajante mam jadavrataha. After many, many births of executing pious activities, when one is completely freed from all contaminations and from all illusory dualities, one becomes engaged in the transcendental, loving service of the Lord. So, this is interesting because it ties in with this morning's class. You may remember that in the purport there, Prabhupada quoted this verse we've heard before in this series that we've been reading. Icha dvesha samutena dvanda mohena bharata savabhutani samoha sarge yanti parantapa. That, as Prabhupada was quoting there, he uses it to describe the fall of the jiva from the spiritual world. When we desire to enjoy separately from Krishna, and we're appalled by the idea of serving Krishna, that's the dvesha, from that arises the dualities, the delusion of duality, dvanda mohena bharata. And in that delusion of duality, fully absorbed in the material energy, we take birth in this world. Sarvabhutani samang sargeyanti literally means comes into the creation. Parantapa, parantapa. Now that state can be continued. In other words, it doesn't just describe our fall, but it also describes our situation, birth after birth after birth. As long as we remain absorbed in the dualities and trying to enjoy and repelled and freaked out by the miseries of this world, we remain in illusion and trapped here. So this verse is the next verse after that one we just read. Yesham dvantakadam papam. But if one ends his sin and just performs pious activities, now it's understood as punya karmanam, or devotional activities, they become tve dvandva moha nirmukta. You become free from the delusion of duality. Dvandva moha nirmukta, and bhajante mam jadavata. One worships me with firm determination, with a firm vow. And so this verse is often quoted. You can't be performing sinful activities and expect to advance in devotional service, because your determination will be very weak. And we all know how strong Maya is. So that's the reason for Prabhupada's strict enforcement of the four regulative principles, because without it, it becomes a farce. And then and the problem is that that's the source of all of these upper sampradayas we hear from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and they're also present in the West. And when you have the widespread propagation of genuine bhakti, you're also going to have people who can't do that, but they still like the chanting and the dancing and the whole thing and the love. I'll tell you a story. I remember this. In years gone by, every few years I used to go to Mayapur. They had the what is it called now? The Leadership Sangha, ISKCON Leadership Sangha. And I would go. They would send me over there to present why we changed the books. That's basically I went. So I got to go to Mayapur. So one year I went, and I met some devotees, and I was chanting some mantras, and they said, "Oh, let's do a presentation in the theater." I said, "Where's the theater?" Below Prabhupada's Samadhi. I didn't even know there was a theater under there. So really, and so we rehearsed a little bit, and I was doing some shlokas, and he had an electric guitar player and everything. So we had our schedule. I went down there, and it was Bhakti Marg Swami. Wherever there's plays, you'll find Bhakti Marg Swami. He's really into it, so he was managing the whole thing. So we were scheduled to go on at a certain time, but there was a presentation before that of yoga. I forget what it was. Yoga in the modern day, something like that. Anyways, it was a video that had been put together. So you see one after another of yoga teachers, not necessarily bhakti yoga, but they're interested in bhakti, but they're also basically yoga teachers, Ashtanga yoga. And one after another, they would talk about how wonderful bhakti is, wonderful bhakti. I said, they're not mentioning Krishna, it's just bhakti. And so bhakti becomes a synonym for love, love. And love to most people means, there's sex and, there's also love, I said, "Oh my God, this is right in the Dham. We're here." There was no, and they quoted from at that time Mandiri Swami. I think it was Mandiri Swami. He was saying something, but they edited it out, so there was no mention of Krishna. I said, "What is going on here?" And this is part of what happens when the power of the holy name goes, widespread. You have all kinds of people using that and playing, harmonium, becoming very expert in singing Hare Krishna mantra, but they're not following the print. They're not following the Shastra or the words of the acharyas. They're making bank, on that, and that's unfortunately what happens. So that's a danger that we have to be very careful about. Is that Lord Chaitanya's movement is very strict, really, and to fully benefit from it and please the previous acharyas, we have to follow the rules and regulations carefully, do what we're supposed to do and not do what we're not supposed to do. Otherwise, we tend to gravitate away from ISKCON, which is very strict, and go to some other things. You'll find it all in Bhakti Fest. You may find so many groups that are not really that serious, but they like to chant Hare Krishna and read about the gopis, like that. So it's ever going to be like that. And Prabhupada was a strict warrior, against the bogus yogis, misusing yoga and misusing this and that, and also, the upper sampradayas, the sahajiyas. You know what sahajiya means? Can anyone say what that word really means? Easy. Taking it easy. In other words, we don't need this, there's all this philosophy in the scripture, we're just dancing and chanting, that's the ultimate goal, But it can easily degrade into... See, one of the things is, as soon as you're outside the protection of ISKCON, and you know that there's certain, so many strictures, then you can't really control your association. You may get together with some of the other vendors. There's some nice people there, it's wonderful. But there's also other indications and other, influences that is all part of the big mix. And we know we're not supposed to hear about Krishna from the non-devotees because it's milk touched by the lips of a serpent. That's the stricture. Means that it may sound like the same thing. And here's someone speaking so very beautifully about Krishna, but they're not actually devotees, and it corrupts you. So be careful of that. Okay, text 46. Tapasibhyo diko yogi jnanibhyo pimato ditakha karmibhyas chadiko yogi tasmad yogi babarjana. A yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the empiricist, and greater than the fruitive worker. Therefore, O Arjun, in all circumstances, be a yogi. Purport. When we speak of yoga, we refer to linking our consciousness with the supreme absolute truth. Such a process is named differently by various practitioners in terms of the particular method adopted. When the linking process is predominantly in fruitive activities, it is called karma yoga. When it is predominantly empirical, it is called jnana yoga. And when it is predominantly in devotional service with the Supreme Lord, it is called bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga, or Krishna consciousness, is the ultimate perfection of all yogas, as will be explained in the next chapter. The Lord has confirmed herein the superiority of yoga, but he has not mentioned that it is better than bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga is full spiritual knowledge, and therefore nothing can excel it. Asceticism without self-knowledge is imperfect. Empiric knowledge without surrender to the Supreme Lord is also imperfect. And fruitive work without Krishna consciousness is a waste of time. Therefore, the most highly praised form of yoga performance mentioned here is bhakti yoga. And this is still more clearly explained in the next verse. So, from this, always be a yogi, always be connected. Keep yourself connected. And the best way to be connected is to always be vibrating the transcendental sound. Keep keep that transcendental sound going, and then you're connected. Okay, and now comes this text 47, which is a great relief for Arjuna, you can imagine, because he's always thinking of Krishna anyway, and he'll learn now that he's already the best yogi. Yoginam api sarvesham madgatena antaratmana Shadhavan bhajati yo mam same yuktitamo mataha. And of all yogis, the one with great faith who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me, he is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. Purport. The word bhajate is significant here. Bhajate has its root in the verb bhaj, which is used when there is need of service. The English word worship cannot be used in the same sense as bhaj. Worship means to adore or to show respect and honor to the worthy one. But service with love and faith is especially meant for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can avoid worshipping a respectable man or a demigod and may be called discourteous, but one cannot avoid serving the Supreme Lord without being thoroughly condemned. Every living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus every living entity is intended to serve the Supreme Lord by his own constitution. Failing to do this, he falls down. The Bhagavatam 11.5.3 confirms this as follows. I'll say, you say, Yesham Purusham Sakshad Atma Prabhavam Ishwaram Nabhajan Chabhajananti Sthanad Brashta Patantyadaha. Anyone who does not render service and neglects his duty unto the primeval Lord, who is the source of all living entities, will certainly fall down from his constitutional position. In this verse also the word bhajanti is used. Therefore bhajanti is applicable to the Supreme Lord only, whereas the word worship can be applied to demigods or to any other common living entity. The word avajananti, used in this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, is also found in the Bhagavad Gita. Avajananti mamudha. Only the fools and rascals deride the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. Such fools take it upon themselves to write commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita without an attitude of service to the Lord. Consequently, they cannot properly distinguish between the word bhajanti and the word worship. The culmination of all kinds of yoga practices lies in bhakti yoga. All other yogas are but means to come to the point of bhakti in bhakti yoga. Yoga actually means bhakti yoga. All other yogas are progressions toward the destination of bhakti yoga. From the beginning of karma yoga to the end of bhakti yoga is a long way to self-realization. Karma yoga, without fruitive results, is the beginning of this path. When karma yoga increases in knowledge and renunciation, the stage is called jnana yoga. When jnana yoga increases in meditation on the supersoul by different physical processes, and the mind is on him, it is called Ashtanga Yoga. And when one surpasses the Ashtanga Yoga and comes to the point of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, it is called Bhakti Yoga, the culmination. Factually, Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal, but to analyze Bhakti Yoga minutely, one has to understand these other yogas. The yogi who is progressive is therefore on the true path of eternal good fortune. One who sticks to a particular point and does not make further progress is called by that particular name: Karma Yogi, Jnana Yogi, or Dhyana Yogi, Raja Yogi, Hatha Yogi, etc. If one is fortunate enough to come to the point of Bhakti Yoga, it is to be understood that he has surpassed all other yogas. Therefore, to become Krishna conscious is the highest stage of yoga, just as when we speak of the Himalayan, we refer to the world's highest mountains, of which the highest peak, Mount Everest, is considered to be the culmination. It is by great fortune that one comes to Krishna consciousness on the path of Bhakti Yoga to become well situated according to the Vedic direction. The ideal yogi concentrates his attention on Krishna, who is called Shyama Sundar, who is as beautifully colored as a cloud, whose lotus-like face is as effulgent as the sun, whose dress is brilliant with jewels, and whose body is flower-garlanded. Illuminating all sides is his gorgeous luster, which is called the Brahmajyoti. He incarnates in different forms such as Rama, Nrsimha, Varaha, and Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he descends like a human being as the son of Mother Yashoda, and he is known as Krishna, Govinda, and Vasudev. He is the perfect child, husband, friend, and master, and he is full with all opulences and transcendental qualities. If one remains fully conscious of these features of the Lord, he is called the highest yogi. This stage of highest perfection in yoga can be attained only by bhakti yoga, as is confirmed in all Vedic literature. Also, you see, Yasya deve para bhaktir, yata deve tatha gurao, tasyaite katita yartha, prakashante mahatmanah. Only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. This is from the Shvetashvatara Upanishad 623. Bhaktirasya bhajanam tad ahima mutobhari nairasyenam ushmim manak kalpanam etad eva naishkarmyam. Bhakti means devotional service to the Lord which is free from desire for material profit, either in this life or in the next. Devoid of such inclinations, one should fully absorb the mind in the Supreme. That is the purpose of Naishkarmya, from the Gopal Tapani Upanishad 115. These are some of the means for performance of bhakti, or Krishna consciousness, the highest perfectional stage of the yoga system. And thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 6th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of dhyana yoga. So, this is a great relief, in one sense. You're giving all of these rules and regulations for Ashtanga Yoga, but Arjun, representing us, is saying how impossible that is. But if we can just come to this point of worshipping the Lord and always remembering Him, with one with great faith who always abides, thinks of me within himself, renders transcendental loving service, he's the most intimately united with me in yoga and the highest of all. That is my opinion. So it's quite remarkable, because there's so much to know, and there's so many philosophical passages. You read the Bhagavatam, as I was mentioning, even in the 10th canto, the prayers of the Nagapatnis, they go on. There's a lot of philosophy there. This Kaliya pastime is going, and then it's like, everything stops, and it started. They have this whole section of philosophy and prayers, very moving, and then pastime goes on. So there is that aspect, but ultimately it's all in, culminates in the services, in this very simple service of Krishna based on loving attraction. That's the culmination of the whole thing. So the wonderful thing about Harinam Sankirtan, which is after all our main dharma. We're not thinking about developing the ability to sit quietly and do all that, We may be thinking about learning how to play the drum better, But you can see how it obviously includes full absorption. If you really get into hearing and chanting, the sound of the name, and you're not allowing the mind to get distracted, it's a full meditation. And it also involves the whole body. It's not, and body, the mind, the ears, and everything, intelligence and focusing. And there's the culmination is the prema. That's the culmination of this. The prema sankirtan is called. And there's so many things leading up to that, and so many lifetimes we have in leading up to that. But really, that's the yoga of the age. Kalir doshanade rajanasya mahadgana kirtanadeva krishnasya mukta sangam param bhajet. That this Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, but there's one very great quality. Just by Sankirtan, just by performing congregations, all of one's goals in life will be achieved. Complete liberation from the bonds of birth and death, and complete restitution and revival of one's loving relationship with Krishna. And then, then what do we do every day, in Goloka Vrindavan? It's all play. It's lila. There's no work there. It's not, there's no yoga. There's no Ashtanga yoga or anything like that. It's just, so that's where it all ends. And so Krishna is encouraging us here, faith. Faith and bhajan. These are words that are applicable to the bhakta. And it's interesting. Okay, after all of this, we still got to deal with the mind, Okay, maya sakta mana. Talking about the mind, right at the beginning of the next chapter. I'm going to show you how you can naturally develop your mind to be attracted to me. Train it first through the material energy, and see Krishna everywhere, So these middle 7 chapters, 6 chapters beginning with chapter 7 are the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. Those are Prabhupada's words. Any questions, comments? Tapas?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Dandava pranams.
So,
Anyone-
Prabhu, I don't see any questions in YouTube, but I see 12 people are watching right now.
12 people?
Yeah.
Thank you for watching and listening. Hare Krishna. All glory to Srila Prabhupada.